Welcome to the Deep Sleep channel. Tonight we have a different kind of story for you. Not a story about one person facing impossible odds, but a story about 33 people trapped together in darkness, learning to survive not as individuals, but as a community. This is a true story that happened recently enough that the world watched it unfold in real time. This is a story about darkness, both literal and psychological, about hope when hope seems impossible, about human connection tested in the most extreme circumstances. This is the story of the 33 Chilean miners. Close your eyes. Let yourself descend into a mine. Let yourself experience 69 days of darkness, of survival, of 33 men learning what it means to be a family when there's nowhere else to go. This is a story that will move you. It's a story about ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. It's a story about hope, resilience, and the power of connection when everything else is stripped away. Part 1. Before the collapse, August 5, 2010, the San José mine. The San José copper and gold mine is located in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile, near the city of Copiapó. The mine is not modern. It's not the safest operation. The Chilean government had cited it multiple times for safety violations, but it operated. Men went to work there every day. The mine is deep. The deepest point where the collapse will occur is 700 meters below the surface. That's more than 2,300 feet. That's deeper than the tallest building in the world is tall. Imagine being that far underground, in darkness, surrounded by rock and metal and dust. On August 5, 2010, a Thursday, 33 men went to work in the San José mine. They were miners, men who had chosen this dangerous work for the paychecks, for the stability, for the job. They were husbands, fathers, brothers. They had lives above ground. They had families waiting for them. They had routines and loves and plans. They went to work that morning with no idea that the next 69 days would define their lives forever. The men, let's know some of them. Ariel Ticona, 23 years old, young, energetic, newer to mining. He had dreams beyond the mine. Carlos Barrios, in his 50s, one of the oldest of the 33, a father and grandfather. He had worked in the mines for decades. He knew the dangers, but he went to work anyway. Mario Sepulveda, 40 years old, charismatic, quick-thinking, would become a leader in the darkness below. Esteban Rojas, 44 years old, calm, steady, would become a spiritual anchor for the group. Dario Segovia, 48 years old, nicknamed the Wizard for his practical problem-solving abilities. Yoni Barrios, 50 years old, a paramedic by training. This would matter later. Claudio Yanez, 34 years old, known for his ability to maintain calm. In 16 subsiders, men with names, with families, with hopes and fears and individual stories, but for the next 69 days they would become a single unit, a community of 33 bound together by circumstance. Thursday morning. Descent on the morning of August 5, 2010, the men descended into the mine as they did every morning. They descended in groups, in the elevator-like mechanisms that carry workers down the deep shafts, down, down, down into darkness, 700 meters below the surface, below the reach of sunlight, into a world of rock and dust and danger. They checked in with their supervisors. They got their assignments. They began their work. Some were operating heavy machinery. Some were hauling ore. Some were maintaining equipment. It was ordinary work, dangerous work, but ordinary for them. None of them knew that in just a few hours the mountain itself would shift, the rock would move, the tunnel would collapse, and they would become trapped 700 meters below the surface with no immediate way out. An OPM, the collapse. Around 2 p.m. on August 5, 2010, a section of the mine collapsed. The exact cause was never fully determined, possibly a structural failure, possibly inadequate support for the rock above, possibly the consequences of years of mining in an unsafe way. What mattered was that rock fell, tons of rock, A massive section of the mine above where the men were working collapsed inward, blocking the main exit route, crushing equipment, crushing hope. The collapse happened suddenly. Some of the men felt the tremor. Some heard the sound, a roar from the rock itself, a grinding crash of stone on stone. Some were close enough to see the dust cloud as the tunnel became blocked. Then silence. Or not silence, but a new kind of sound. The sound of settling rock, the sound of the mountain adjusting to the collapse, the sound of 33 men realizing that something terrible had just happened. The first moments. In those first moments after the collapse, there was confusion, panic, men shouting. What happened? Where's the exit? Are people hurt? Is anyone dead? The men quickly understood the situation. A massive rock fall had blocked the main exit. They were trapped. They could not climb out. They could not dig their way out with the tools they had. They were 700 meters below the surface, in darkness, in a mine that was becoming their prison. But they were alive. All 33 of them. Despite the massive collapse, no one had been killed in the initial rock fall. They were trapped, but they were together. They were alive. In those first hours, the men did what people do in crisis. They gathered together. They took inventory. They counted each other. They looked for injuries. Yoni Barrios, the paramedic, checked on people. There were minor injuries, nothing life-threatening, not yet. They found the rescue shelter, a small refuge area in the mine designed for emergency situations. It had supplies, it had fresh air, it had a radio. It was their lifeline to the surface. The first radio call, someone found the radio. Someone had the presence of mind to turn it on and call to the surface, to tell the world above what had happened. We are trapped. The mine has collapsed. There are 33 of us. We are alive. Please help us. The message went to the surface. It was received. The alarm was raised. The world above began to understand. 33 men were trapped 700 meters below the surface in a collapsed mine. Part 2. The first days. August 5-15, 2010. Darkness and uncertainty. When the sun set that night, the 33 men were still underground. The darkness of the mine was absolute. There was no light except what they could generate. They had flashlights, they had lamps, but they had to ration batteries. Electricity was precious when you were trapped underground with limited power. The men gathered in the rescue shelter. They waited. They didn't know what was happening above. They didn't know if rescuers had arrived. They didn't know if they would be rescued quickly or if they would be trapped for a long time. They tried to stay calm. Some prayed. Some talked. Some tried to sleep. It was difficult to sleep. The air was getting stale. The temperature was not comfortable. The stress of the situation was overwhelming. But they had water. They had some food in the rescue shelter. They had each other. And they had hope. Fragile, uncertain hope, but hope nonetheless. Above ground, the rescue effort begins. On the surface, the world mobilized. Chilean government agencies, international rescue teams, engineers, geologists. Equipment was brought to the site. Drilling equipment. The plan was to drill down to the men's location and assess the situation. But drilling 700 meters is not simple. The equipment had to be precise. The drilling had to be careful. One mistake could cause another collapse. One mistake could kill the men they were trying to rescue. The first drill began to move slowly downward, deeper and deeper. The world watched. News outlets covered the story. International attention focused on the small mine in the Atacama Desert. Days 1-5. Adaptation. In the first 5 days, the 33 men began to adapt. They organized themselves. They assigned roles. Someone would be in charge of inventory. Someone would manage food. Someone would monitor the radio. Someone would keep morale up. They were miners. They understood the dangers of underground work. They knew that staying organized was the difference between survival and panic. They rationed the food in the shelter. There wasn't much. The shelter was designed for a few people for a few hours, not 33 people for an indefinite period. They calculated how long the food would last. Days. Not weeks, not months, days. They understood that they needed to be rescued soon or they would begin to starve. The air in the mine was getting worse. The rescue shelter had some ventilation, but 33 people in a confined space were consuming oxygen. They needed fresh air. They needed help from above. The radio crackled sometimes. Messages came from above. Rescue efforts were underway. The drills were coming. Help was coming. Stay calm. Stay together. Day 15, the first breakthrough. On August 20, 2010, 15 days after the collapse, the first drill hole broke through to the rescue shelter. The drill pierced the rock, creating a small hole from the surface down to where the men were sheltering. For the first time in 15 days, the men had a direct connection to the surface. They could hear the world above. They could send messages. They could receive supplies. Through the small hole, rescuers sent down a camera on a probe. The men gathered around as the camera was lowered into the rescue shelter. For the first time, the world above could see them. They were alive. All 33 of them. They were thin. They were dirty. They were exhausted, but they were alive. The images were transmitted to the surface, to the rescue command center, to the news outlets covering the story. The world saw their faces. The world understood that these 33 men had survived. There was jubilation above ground. There was hope. The drilling had worked. Communication had been established. Now the real rescue could begin. Supplies from above. Through the small hole, rescuers began to send supplies. Food, water, medicine, letters from families. The food was precious. The men ate. Their bellies, which had been growling from hunger, were finally satisfied. The letters from families were equally precious. Wives, children, parents. Messages from above ground telling the men that they were loved, that people were working to rescue them, that they would come home. Some men cried when they read the letters. The psychological relief of knowing that they hadn't been forgotten, that their families were aware they were alive and waiting for rescue, it was profound. The food that was being sent was calculated carefully. It had to sustain the men, but it also had to account for the fact that the rescue would take time. They couldn't just send unlimited food and water through a small hole. They had to be strategic. Days 15 to 35, waiting and hoping. From August 20 to early September, the men waited. Drilling continued from the surface. Multiple holes were being drilled. One was for supplies, one was for extraction. The plan was to widen one of the holes enough to create a shaft that could lower a capsule to bring the men up one at a time. But this took time. The drilling was slow. The rock was hard. The engineers had to be careful not to destabilize the mine further. The men organized their time. They had routines. They exercised to stay physically fit. They talked. They prayed. They maintained the rescue shelter. They managed the supplies. Some of the men became close. They talked about their lives above ground. They talked about what they would do when they were rescued. They formed bonds that came from shared survival. They also had to manage the psychological weight. They were 700 meters below ground. The darkness was constant. The air was thin. The walls of rock surrounded them. The weight of the mountain pressed down. Some men struggled with claustrophobia. Some struggled with despair. Some struggled with fear. But they had each other. They had community. They had people who understood what they were going through because they were going through it too. Part 3. The Rescue Plan. September 2010. The Phoenix capsule. By early September, the rescue plan was becoming clear. A specially designed capsule called the Phoenix was being built in Chile. The capsule was a metal tube, just large enough for one person at a time. It would be lowered down a shaft into the mine, pick up one man, and bring him back to the surface. The capsule had to be light enough to be lowered and raised by the equipment on the surface, but strong enough to protect the man inside during the journey up and down. It had oxygen inside. It had psychological support, cameras so the man inside could see where he was, communication devices so he could talk to rescuers. The shaft that would hold the Phoenix capsule had to be drilled to 700 meters depth. This was a massive engineering project. Drilling teams worked around the clock. The drill advanced slowly, carefully. Every centimeter mattered. The August 24 hours, the rescue continued. The Phoenix capsule went down. It picked up a man. It came back up. One by one, the 33 men emerged from the mine. Some emerged strong and exhilarated. Some were weak and exhausted. Some emerged crying. Some could barely walk. They had been underground for 69 days. Their bodies had adapted to the darkness, to the cold, to the thin air. The sunlight was shocking. The fresh air was overwhelming. The world above was too much. But they kept coming, one after another. 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, 30. The families watched. As each man emerged, there was a reunion. A wife rushing to embrace her husband, children crying with joy, parents holding their adult sons, siblings embracing. The joy was overwhelming. The relief was overwhelming. The families had been waiting for 69 days. Some had feared the worst. Some had held on to hope. But now, one by one, their men were coming home. October 13, the last man. The rescue continued through the night and into October 13. By the late evening, there was only one man left in the mine, the last of the 33. Luis Urzua was the shift foreman. He had stayed with his men until the end. He would be the last to leave. He had served as a leader throughout the ordeal. He had helped organize the rescue effort. He had ensured that the men were taken care of, and now he was the last. At approximately 25 a.m. on October 14, 2010, 69 days after the collapse, Luis Urzua emerged from the Phoenix capsule. The last man was rescued. The rescue was complete. All 33 men had survived. All 33 had been brought to the surface. Not a single man had been left behind. Not a single man had been lost. Part 4. The rescue complete. The meaning of survival outside the mine. When the men emerged, they were met with medical attention. They were dehydrated. They were weak. Some had health issues. Some had injuries that had worsened during the 69 days. But they were alive. They were examined by doctors. They were given fresh food, carefully, because their stomachs had adapted to minimal food and could be overwhelmed by too much too fast. They were given fresh clothes. They were reunited with their families. The men were heroes now. The world celebrated them. Their names were known. Their story had captivated the globe. People everywhere had followed the rescue minute by minute. The 33 Chilean miners were symbols of human resilience, human ingenuity, human hope. But the men themselves were dealing with something more complex. They had survived something extraordinary. They had formed bonds that came from shared extremity. They had changed. They were not the men they had been 69 days earlier. The aftermath, celebration, and complexity. There were celebrations. The men were given receptions. They were on television. They were offered book deals and movie deals. Some of them became celebrities. But there was also complexity. Some men struggled with PTSD. Some struggled with claustrophobia that had developed from the trauma. Some struggled with depression after the rescue. Some struggled with the sudden fame. Some struggled with returning to normal life when they had experienced something so abnormal. The bonds between the men were intense. They had survived together. They had saved each other's lives. But now they were separated. They went back to their lives. They tried to return to normal. But normal was no longer available to them. They had changed. Some of the men have remained close, meeting regularly, remembering the 69 days underground. Some have drifted apart, finding it too difficult to confront the shared trauma. Some have sought help for the psychological effects of their experience. What the rescue meant. The rescue of the 33 Chilean miners meant many things. It meant that human ingenuity can overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. The drilling, the engineering, the logistics, it was a triumph of human problem solving. It meant that hope matters. The men would not have survived without hope. The knowledge that rescue was coming, even when it seemed impossible, gave them the psychological strength to continue. It meant that community matters. The 33 men survived not as individuals, but as a collective. They supported each other. They shared resources. They provided emotional support. They were stronger together than they would have been alone. It meant that the world is connected. The story of 33 men trapped in a Chilean mine captured the attention of billions of people. It reminded people that we are all connected, that we care about strangers, that we want to see human beings survive and thrive. Part 5. The miner's perspective. What they lived in the darkness. Let's think about what 69 days in darkness was actually like. Imagine not seeing the sun for 69 days. Imagine the darkness being absolute except for flashlights. Imagine your circadian rhythm breaking down. Imagine day and night becoming meaningless because there is no day and no night underground. Imagine the cold. The mine is cool, around 32 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Fahrenheit near the surface, but cooler as you go deeper. Imagine being cold constantly. Imagine your body burning calories just to maintain temperature. Imagine the air getting progressively worse. 33 people in a confined space, consuming oxygen, producing carbon dioxide. Imagine the smell. After 69 days, the sanitation must have been extremely difficult to maintain. Imagine the psychological toll of living in your own filth. Imagine the hunger. The initial supplies in the rescue shelter would have lasted days, maybe a week. Then they would have been rationing. Small amounts of food sent through the hole would have been distributed carefully. Imagine the constant hunger. Imagine your body eating itself for energy. Imagine the constant fear that another collapse could happen, the constant fear that the rescue might fail, the constant fear that you might die 700 meters below ground in the community. But also imagine the connection. Imagine 33 men becoming a family. Imagine caring for each other's physical and psychological well-being. Imagine knowing that you would not survive without these men, and they would not survive without you. Imagine the conversations, the stories told, the memories shared, the dreams discussed. Imagine learning intimate details about 32 other men's lives. Imagine becoming close to people you barely knew before. Imagine the spirituality, the prayers offered, the faith that sustained some men, the meaning that they created together. Imagine the humor. Even in darkness, humans find ways to laugh. The dark jokes told underground, the moments of levity that provided psychological relief. Imagine the leadership. Some men stepped up. Some men made decisions. Some men managed resources. Some men kept morale. These roles gave purpose and meaning. The psychology of rescue. When rescue came, the men had to process the transition from darkness to light, from confinement to openness, from community to separation, from ordeal to fame. Some men celebrated joyfully. Some men emerged traumatized. Some men struggled with survivor's guilt, wondering why they were alive when others might not have been, though fortunately all 33 survived. Some men have spoken about the mine as the defining moment of their lives. Everything before was preparation for it. Everything after is aftermath. The 69 days became the central point around which their entire existence orbits. Part 6. Meditation. The meaning of hope and community. What the miners teach us. The story of the 33 Chilean miners teaches us several profound lessons. Hope is not naive. The men could have despaired. They could have given up, but they maintained hope. This hope was not naive optimism. It was grounded in the reality that rescue teams were above them, that engineers were working to save them, that they had a real chance of survival. Hope was a practical tool for survival. Community is essential. The men survived as a community, not as individuals. They shared resources. They supported each other emotionally and physically. They created a culture of survival together. Alone, any one of them would have been more likely to succumb to despair or physical weakness. Together, they were stronger. Resilience is real. 33 men survived 69 days in a collapsed mine. They endured darkness, hunger, fear, and confinement. They maintained their humanity. They created meaning. This speaks to the remarkable resilience of human beings. We are capable of surviving far more than we think we can. Ordinary people can be extraordinary. The 33 Chilean miners were ordinary people. They were not specially trained. They were not superheroes. They were miners, working people trying to earn a living. And yet, in extraordinary circumstances, they became extraordinary. They showed resilience, wisdom, leadership, and compassion. Connection transcends circumstance. The world watched the rescue because we recognized ourselves in the miners. We understood that they were human beings. We felt connected to them across language, geography, and circumstance. The rescue reminded us that we are all part of a human community, the weight of survival. But the miner's story also reminds us that survival is not simple, it's complicated, it's heavy. The men survived, but they carry the weight of their survival. They carry trauma. They carry the bonds formed in darkness. They carry the knowledge that they were changed forever. The rescue was celebrated, but the aftermath has been more complicated. Some men have struggled. Some have thrived. Some have become advocates or speakers. Some have withdrawn. They have all been marked by what they survived. This is the real story, not just the triumph of the rescue, but the complexity of what comes after. Not just the joy of reunion, but the challenge of returning to a normal life that is no longer available to them. Sleep with hope and community. As you drift into sleep tonight, carrying the story of the 33 Chilean miners with you, think about what their experience teaches you. Think about hope. Not naive hope, but grounded hope. The belief that things can improve. The belief that humans are capable of solving problems. The belief that rescue, whatever form it takes, is possible. Think about community. The people in your life who make you stronger. The connections that matter. The fact that you are not alone, even when you feel isolated. The power of being part of a group that shares your struggle. Think about resilience. your own resilience, the fact that you are stronger than you think you are, the fact that humans can survive almost anything, the fact that even in the darkest moments, meaning and connection are possible. Think about the 33 miners. Think about them in the darkness. Think about them emerging into the light. Think about them being reunited with their families. Think about them carrying the weight of their survival. And think about your own life. What are the mines in your life? What are the places where you feel trapped? And what is the rope that might lift you out? Part 7. The individual miners. Their stories after. Where are they now? After the rescue, the 33 miners' lives took different paths. Mario Sepulveda, the charismatic leader who kept morale up, he became famous. He wrote a book. He appeared on television. He became an advocate for mine safety. He married his girlfriend. He built a life as a public figure, using his fame to help others. Esteban Rojas, the spiritual anchor of the group. He returned to his faith. He became a theologian and speaker. He helps others process trauma. Yoni Barrios, the paramedic who cared for the men. He continued in medical work. He used his experience to help others understand trauma and survival. Luis Urzua, the foreman who was the last to be rescued. He became an ambassador for mine safety. He spoke about the importance of proper safety protocols in mining. Ariel Ticona, the young miner. He struggled with PTSD after the rescue. He has been open about his mental health challenges. He advocates for psychological support for trauma survivors. Dario Segovia, the wizard of practical problem solving. He continued his life quietly, using his experience to help others in smaller ways. The other miners have had different experiences. Some have done well. Some have struggled. Some have remained in the spotlight. Some have withdrawn from public life. They have all been marked by the 69 days, but they have processed that experience in different ways. The bonds. The men have reunited periodically. They gather on the anniversary of the collapse. They remember what they survived together. They maintain the bonds that were forged 700 meters below ground. Some of the bonds have remained strong. Some have weakened, but all of them are marked by the shared experience. They are bound to each other in a way that non-miners might not fully understand. Part 8. The Rescue. A meditation on human capacity, engineering as salvation. The rescue of the 33 miners was a triumph of human engineering. The drill that penetrated 700 meters of rock, the Phoenix capsule that lifted men from darkness to light, the complex logistics that coordinated thousands of people. This engineering was not magic. It was problem solving. It was creativity applied to a practical problem. It was people saying, there are 33 men trapped underground. We will find a way to bring them home. And they did. The rescue reminds us that human beings are capable of remarkable things. We can design systems to overcome obstacles. We can work together toward a common goal. We can achieve things that seem impossible when we commit ourselves to them. The power of attention. The rescue also reminds us of the power of global attention. The world watched. The news coverage was constant. Governments mobilized. International resources were brought to bear. In part, this was because the story was dramatic. 33 men trapped in a mine is a compelling narrative. But it was also because in a globalized world, we are connected. We can feel compassion for people in other countries. We can be moved by their struggles. We can be part of their rescue. The meaning of rescue. Rescue means being brought to safety. But for the 33 miners, rescue meant more. It meant returning to the surface. It meant returning to light. It meant returning to their families. It meant returning to a world that had moved on without them. Rescue is not just a physical act. It's a psychological act. It's a spiritual act. It's the affirmation that life matters, that people matter, that we will do everything we can to save those who are in danger. Farewell from the Deep Sleep Channel. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the darkness and the light. Thank you again for visiting the Deep Sleep Channel. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. We have more stories coming, stories about survival, about connection, about what it means to face darkness and find light. As you sleep tonight, you carry with you the story of the 33 miners. You carry their hope. You carry their community. You carry their resilience. And you carry the knowledge that humans are capable of surviving almost anything when we are supported by hope, by community, and by the belief that rescue is possible. Sleep well, knowing that human connection is real and powerful. Good night from the Deep Sleep Channel. Sleep well.